All right, so this is week 5 of Sunshine's group consultation. So um, we'll just get right to it. So Lauren, if you want to start us off.
All right. Hi, Carly. So for this consultation, what are your best hopes?
I think just gaining a sense of peace and kind of like acceptance regarding field in general.
Well, thank you for that, sharing that. I don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I'm good.
All right, McKenna, if you want to go next.
Hi, Carly. What do you think your best hopes are for this situation?
I think that for the situation, like at field, so if I'm like partializing, like thinking about at field, I think that it would be really great to see I guess like more collaboration, especially as we emerge out of COVID, among different like stakeholders and workers in just like the domestic violence community, as well as like the foreign born community, the refugee community of Buffalo. And then I guess like for me, it's just kind of like understanding my role in that as a person who's just transient at like the institution or like where I'm working.
Great, thank you.
McKenna, do you have any follow-up questions?
She seemed to answer it pretty well. I'm not sure that I can think of something to follow up with that.
Okay.
Thanks, Carly.
Yeah, we can move on to Brittany.
Hi, suppose that you end up gaining that peace and acceptance. What do you think would look different for you?
I think that I might just start the day with less of like a heaviness or maybe an annoyance. I think that that would be helpful just in like doing the tasks that are at hand and just doing them and moving on. I think that would be really nice. And I don't feel like I'm doing that right now.
Okay, what else do you think would be different for you?
I kind of wish I could say like I wish I could say that something that would be different was like me participating in Zoom meetings would be more like participatory and more like feeling like myself. But I think a part of like the acceptance that I'm talking about is also regarding the fact that like the people at this organization are burned out. They've done a whole year online and they work in a very stressful situation. And when we're on Zoom, like it is blank faces and no participation. And I mean, what can I do with that? Like I feel that and I feel them. Like that's okay. So I think like just more of an acceptance of that would be nice as well.
Yeah, so what do you think that target system would notice is different?
It's tough because like I unlike a lot of people, like the target system that I'm really working with, like I very rarely interface with them. And when I do, I think it's quite it's fine. Like it's a good interaction. So I guess like if we're thinking about the target system as like the people at my field, I feel like they would just notice maybe like a more ease. And I feel like I'm overall like what I project is really on point and on target. Um and it's quite even. So maybe they would just notice like that and more consistency. I'm not really sure what they would notice, to be honest.
What do you think others that are associated with the clients would notice is different?
Honestly super hard to answer that question because like I am here alone. So I don't know what like people would notice because they're not noticing anything I'm doing anyway. So that's okay. Like I'm kind of like that's kind of what I'm hoping to get is like acceptance with that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you, Carly, for being open and honest and vulnerable with us about this tough situation. I'm going to turn over to Brianna now.
Hey, Carly. So on a scale of from 1 to 10, where 10 stands for you're at peace with the situation you're in at your field placement and you've kind of had that full level of acceptance of the current state of how the culture of the organization is, and 1 stands for, the complete opposite of that. Where are you now?
I say like at a 5 to 6.
And what tells you you're at that 5 to 6 range?
I think I generally I would know if I were at a 4. Oh, I'm like skipping ahead, but
Fine.
I think like in my processing of it, like if I were at a 4, I would be like really struggling to even like get out of bed or something like that. Like it would be hard to tap into the day. But I am able to do that decently consistently. And I do look forward to like my interactions with others at my field placement.
So it sounds like you're able to still show up to your placement despite the struggles you're going through. Where exactly do you want to be right now?
I think it would be nice to be more to 7.
Mm.
Just to be a little bit further, like a little bit more toward that like peacefulness would be nice.
And you think that peacefulness will be what is different, or what else do you think will be different at that 7 point?
I guess like the peacefulness and then like just the doing the tasks. I think less of a pause. I just kind of remember how you were talking about, Brianna, like when you were talking about procrastination, I really resonated with that. And I find that I procrastinate, and I feel like it's a part of that like tumultuous like feeling I have with the day.
I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that. I think it's something we can all kind of relate to at this time. I think that burnout feeling is coming. So thank you.
All right, we can move on to Brittany now again.
For this goal, what do you feel like you are already doing that seems to be working for you?
I think that I'm like very honest in my communication with my like field advisor and task supervisor. And we have a really good relationship. And like even just this week I emailed them and I was like, can I just take a half day on Wednesday and then resituate and like do a half day on Friday? And that felt really good to kind of like draw some boundaries. And I kind of did that like in light of this. And it seems like that was very helpful.
Yeah, it seems like you're doing a lot of things that is already putting you on that right track, reaching you closer to that goal. How do you feel you are being trauma informed with clients?
You kind of cut out there at the end, but trauma informed with clients and everything.
You guys are frozen for a second.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I was asking, how do you feel you are being Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Are you saying?
Oh, I said,
that-
how do you feel
I think they're saying how are you being trauma informed with your clients? Is that correct, Brittany? Just say yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Oh man.
I think-
I heard you, Brittany. Thank you. I feel like I've done a lot of webinars on trauma-informed care this whole field experience, so I've learned a lot about it. I think that overall, I really work to respect their autonomy, and I do, like even in the kind of brief interactions I have with them, I always like prioritize like supporting them doing and me like kind of playing like a facilitative role. And it seems like there's a lot of like connection uh in those interactions. So it has felt really good when I've had those client interactions, even though they're few and far between.
What else do you feel like you were doing that seems to be working for you?
I mean, the communication, the showing up, I guess like I've been connecting with different people at the organization, which has felt nice. Connecting with the other people who are also interns and field place there at field.
Okay. Whoever wants to go next.
We can move on to Lauren.
All right. So, what is the client or your clients doing that's already on track?
So as far as like the clients that the organization serves, like they are so resilient and they are doing so many things all the time that is like very on track to protect themselves, to keep themselves safe, and they're in very, very precarious situations, especially considering the pandemic and just like police presence in their communities and like the horrible things. They have been incredibly resilient. And it honestly is very sad knowing that the systems that are supposed to support them have like really failed during the pandemic.
So I definitely agree. And then I just have follow-up, I think I can ask, but what's the organization doing essentially that's on track?
I really like that question. And yeah, the advocates are busting their butts. And it's been very impressive to see that happen despite like the lack of enthusiasm that might be present like in a Zoom meeting. When I talk to them independently, I'm just like blown away, truly blown away by their hard work.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing both sides.
Yeah, thank you as well. And it must be insanely challenging to, not have that like outside organizational support from, the police and other places. And I'm glad that like, each one of everyone in the organization seems really headstrong about this cause. We'll run a hair short on time, so I'll move on to McKenna for the last question.
Hi, Carly. So, what do you think is one small step that you could do next to gain that peace and validation?
I think that something I've been trying to do is write down tasks as opposed to use like the Outlook calendar that is associated with the organization. I think that maybe writing down the tasks would be helpful, and like having the act of crossing things off is something that I could do.
Awesome. How do you think making those lists by hand will be helpful to your tasks?
I feel like there's something kind of like ritualistic about like writing it down and then crossing it off in a way that is not totally present. Like it's nice to remove it from the screen because we're on here all the time. So I think it would be nice to see that happen and then like feel the peace that comes with getting things done. It's kind of basic, but like
Great, thank you.
Is there any further questions we want to ask before we move on to the wonderment phase? Okay, so Carly, if you could turn off your video and we'll just kind of go at it if anyone wants to start.
I wonder how Carly is able to stay grounded from hearing all of the traumatic stories that she hears from clients, from everything that they have been going through.
I wonder, are there any supports within the agency for this vicarious trauma?
I wonder how Carly has thought about how the current culture of her placement has impacted her feelings and thoughts around the work she's doing and how she's been handling it.
I wonder how Carly has felt supported from her supervisor.
I wonder how Carly's coping with that frustration from her field placement that she's going through.
I wonder what the clients, when she is able to interact with them, I wonder what they see when Carly is facilitating the work with them.
Are there any more wonderments? The last one I have is one to keep in mind is I wonder whether or not the other staff at this organization would be willing to engage in some kind of support group to talk about the trauma and how to cope through that together. Anyone, any last minute ones before we move on to the compliment section?
I have one last one I just thought of. I wonder what keeps Carly showing up to her field despite the pandemic, despite the struggle it's been. I wonder what keeps her going every day.
I realized I was just muted for that entire thing. Carly, if you could turn your video back on, we're moving on to the compliment section. Thank you. So, anyone else want to start?
I can start. Carly, I really want to commend you on your self-awareness and your willingness to, I guess, like realize that you're not having the greatest time and you're willing to admit that. I honestly, like, I think that takes a lot in some people, and it's very impressive that you were willing to not only recognize it, but speak about it.
I just want to commend you for, despite your frustration, you're still able to show up to your internship, and just the fact that you say that you still enjoy the interactions with the people one-on-one really shows the passion that you have for helping these people.
Yeah, mine is similar, Carly, but you're just so strong for showing up every day and for recognizing that this isn't exactly ideal for you, but still showing up every day. That's awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything everyone said so far. I also want to commend your perception of your coworkers' burnout and your care to them as well. On top of already your dedication to your clients.
Yeah, kind of related to what Tyler is saying. Like, I commend your ease in like finding the strengths in the advocates you're working with, your clients, and the overall organization. It can be difficult to find the strength in something when you're feeling like things aren't right. So I really commend you for still pursuing that. Also, I want to just say, like, I appreciate your honesty and your realness with this. It's showing a really great sense of vulnerability, and I appreciate how authentic you've approached this and have talked to us really openly about it. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that is like your openness could really complement your work with clients, and I'm sure that they see your honesty and your openness as a strength and are more willing to be honest and open with you about their situation. I can't remember if we started at 250 or 255, but as we're, wrapping up here, does anyone have any last thoughts they want to get out before we close for today? All right. Thank you, Carly, again for your honesty and openness with your whole case and answering all the questions to the best of your ability today. And thank you, everyone, for asking these. I try to give everyone a new question, and you all did it very skillfully. Moving on to the debrief section. So how was this for everyone, the process?
I thought it worked really well again. And yeah, we all got new questions. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely gotten a lot easier, but sometimes I still struggle like what to say next for like validation statements and all of that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I wish we had a bit more time because I would like to see what this would look like if we weren't prompted by the facilitator to talk. I just seeing like a more like flow of conversation. I'm curious to see what that would look like. Because we've gotten so comfortable and a lot of us have gotten some of the questions, like almost all of them now. So I'm curious to see what that would look like in the future, even though we're not going to do it. But yeah.
No, I actually wrote about that type of thing in my last reflection too. Like, I wonder what would happen like if we were to do it a second time through in a way, and like have, not that we're going to, but like to have that like fluidity, because it does seem, especially like receiving, like being on this end, everyone has a super good flow.
I wish there was no, or a longer time limit. I don't want to say no time limit because I know that could open a huge can of worms, but I wish there was longer because I feel like through all of the sessions, I've like cut myself off because I'm like fully aware of that. I wrote about that in a few of my reflections about how I feel like, okay, I'm asking the question, I might be saying one more thing, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like, yeah, because I don't want to step on other people, and take 20 minutes for one question.
So it sounds like it's what our process now is working, but we want to add certain things to it that we're not sure are within the bounds of the assignment. So what could we add that will work for us all to like get in what we want to say without stepping on each other's toes? We don't necessarily have to answer it right now. We may want to ponder it and talk about it over text. And I think it's a good time to wrap up and then, stop the recording. All right, it's stop, not pause, right?
Yeah, you want to stop it, don't pause.